G'day friends, welcome to part 2 of the 3-part journal cover stencil videos. As I mentioned this in part 1, you want gesso on your Jane Davenport Mixed Media Butterfly Effect books, your Canvas Traveler's Notebook. You can do it with a brush or a credit card, room key, whatever you've got access to, and gesso will just save your life at this point. So if you're joining us and this is the first video watching, hello, there's a part 1 and a part 3. And if you're watching from the first video, we're using the same face stencil and we're going to show you, well, I'm going to show you, well, the cats and I are going to show you a bunch of different ways to use it again. So, you know, nothing groundbreaking here. I wanted to show you that it literally can be as simple as this. I'm using half the face stencil. But, you know, some people may not have thought about this, or it may not have crossed their mind to use just a part of something that they own, half a stamp or half a stencil. And you can get a totally dramatic look from this. Or maybe you've accidentally cut your stencil in half and this is all you have and you think, oh no, my stencil's ruined. Not true. You can, you can do this. You can use half of it and give her some very dramatic swooping hair, and it's gonna work out totally fine, I promise. So I'm using a blue this time because I'm gonna give her blue skin, because why not? YOLO. And I'm just doing exactly the same thing. I'm overdrawing the lips that were already down there. I'm gonna pinch in that nose, just make it a little pointier. I'm going to darken up that eye, and I'm also gonna cut half of it off because I always like that that kind of sultry glare, stare off into the distance. At the moment it kind of looks like nothing, but that's because I was going to scrub this watercolor all over it anyway. This is the same technique that we've been doing. It's great because you can see the working lines underneath it and you can get a really interesting effect with all that watercolor. And you can see it still bleeds, it still feathers, even though you've got gesso on there, but that's totally fine because it's just a base. It's a really great base to work with. And I love the mermaid markers on top of this. I love how they blend and saturate. You can see there, that's it dry. So you can see all the color pooling, and you can also see the difference in color. When you put it on, it's quite dark, and then once it's dry, it will, I won't say dull down, but it will be lighter. It won't be as vibrant, which I guess is the the definition of dull. But you can totally go back over it again, hit it twice with the watercolor or a mermaid marker, and it will pick up its vibrancy again. But for me, a lot of this I just did as a base because I'll do the same thing in my journal. I want something underneath what I'm trying to draw or create if I'm going for this really whimsical, loose kind of look. I just think it works easier than trying to add in all this stuff afterwards. So I've drawn the face, and now I'm just going in with that ink from the watercolor palette, and I'm letting that just spread out. I'm letting it feather and go wherever it wants. I'm not worried if it goes over some of the lines that I need. I'm not worried if it bleeds into the face, because this, I'm just staying loose. I'm letting it take on a life of its own. Does that sound dramatic enough? I'm not worried about it. It's fun. It's like what I would do in an art journal, but this time I'm doing it on the front cover of a traveler's notebook. I've got the paint over pen too. You can see that could cover a multitude of sins. I didn't love how the ink bled into where the lips were going to be, but you can still kind of see it through there. And I think that's the beauty of doing mixed media art. You can see the layers, you can see the process, you can see some of the mistakes, you can see what people would like to change or cover up, or what their preference is. You know, it's kind of a journey into your imagination, I guess. Oh goodness, I've already lost my mind. Anyway, so I wanted to show you here that using half the face can be super dramatic. A lot of you, if you're struggling with hair as well, don't be put off by what this looks like. If you break this shape down, it's basically like an almond or a football shape, kind of turned on its side and placed over the eye where it was. And then I just took the lines and, you know, dragged them down to the bottom of the page. And I think that's super simple. Here I've used that little black brush pen with the ink because the ink would lay on top of it. I've used paint marker because the paint marker would lay on top of it. Honestly, once the gesso's on there, the world is your oyster. So go for it, grab all of your favorite things. I think the only thing I didn't really use was the gold watercolor that I bought a while ago. Everything else that was laying around on the table was kind of put to use in this. And these Crayola pens were the real standout of the day. Who knew? They were, I don't know if I said this already, but they were marketed as like the adult Crayola marker. They were specifically designed for lettering, and apparently the color palette is a bit more adult, which I will say they're not. It's not like a Rainbow Brights palette. It's definitely, they're richer colors, darker. So I really like it, but I don't use them for much because I don't really letter. But for this, it was great because once the gesso was on there, it wasn't going to bleed or feather. I found that. Here's a fun technique. If you want to make a shadow out of one of your stencils, go in with the darker color, then just move that stencil a tiny bit, a little offset, and go in with a lighter color, and you'll see it kind of looks like it's got a shadow. Well, you'll see it when I take the stencil off of it. I only did it for the first one. The other ones I thought I would just leave normal. There it is. On the left-hand side, you see how the scales kind of look, they've got a shadow? So I thought that was a fun technique. Another great way to add sparkles is just to get your paint marker and put dots everywhere. Use a marker, use a Copic marker or something, and add in kind of really soft details in the background. Yeah, I love this page. Anyway, I'm going to show you the close-ups for this one, and then I'll talk about the next one and how that came to be. Alrighty, so this one I wanted to show you is a little bit more technically advanced. I'm actually using the eye, that bigger eye there, the full eye, and I'm drawing in half. I'm drawing half the face that side, then I'm flipping the stencil, and I'm drawing the same on the other side. Now, it's just a reference point. You don't have to get a ruler out and measure it. I mean, you can if you want. If you want to use this exactly the way it is, you can totally do that. But you'll find that some things may not match up perfectly well. Like, for instance, I thought the pupils of the eyes maybe just needed to be adjusted a little better. Then I used the side of the face to get that curve the way that I wanted it, and then I just met them down at the middle. So you can totally use this stencil and flip it, and you'll get a straight on looking face, like a front looking face. I had the lips kind of already half done in there, so I just flipped them over on the drawing, and then I just put in my own nose because that nose is it's a 3/4 view, so I thought it wouldn't really translate. But for the most part, I used the shapes as a reference, and then this is actually Frida, so I used that hairline and made her eyebrows, and it's an easy way to add symmetry without trying to figure it all out. And I added the top of the eyebrow just by going over it again. This is all just a base, this is all just a layout, so I'm keeping it really sketchy, really loose. I'm not really worried about adding too much detail at this point. And yeah, same principles as before. I'm going to go in with the watercolor and scrub that all around. I don't know if I've done... Oh, I did. The first one, I guess, kind of had... The first two had skin tones. So I gave this one a skin tone as well. And you can see that the watercolor palette just works fine. It works perfectly fine. If you're scared of using acrylics like I was, just grab your watercolor palette. And if you've got gesso down there, like I said, it'll work totally fine. And you'll see once this is dry, it does, like I said before, the color isn't as rich as when you first put it down. But if you're just using it as a base, don't worry about it. Don't go over it a million times if you're just going to go over the top of it anyway. And while that canvas is wet, why not add in some cheek color? Why not add in a pop of red or pink here and there? Just let that pool around, let it feather out, let it kind of, seep in and let it blend itself. I obviously went a little overboard with that red cheek, but I am very dramatic like that, and I actually enjoy that red cheek. The white magic wand was a total surprise in this too. if you scrub it into the watercolor, I think I let it dry by this point, but you could try it wet. If you scrub it in, you'll get a nice, really light highlight. So you can see the nose and the forehead there. It just kind of, I've pulled that highlight out like it would be if I was doing it on a piece of paper and I was using, you know, a white paint marker or something, but I just didn't want it to be a really strong highlight just yet. I wanted the base to be full of different colors of shadows and highlights, and you know, I just really wanted to build it up. And I think this Frida one is a good example of going over and over and over things in tons of different layers, because you can already see here I've got about 3 layers down now of watercolor and pencil, and I'm just going to keep going. And my technique, my fail safe for this was a watercolor base. Well, first of all, a pencil outline, and then a watercolor base, and then pencil shadows, and then I might have gone back in with some more watercolor, or I'd hit it up with the mermaid marker or the paint pens or some ink. And by ink, I mean like a Uniball Signo or a, what is it called? What's that thing called? A brush pen. Or a brush pen. But I think for the most part, a lot of this detail I kept with pencil and just different colored pencils. I also used the flower stencil. I honestly cannot remember where it's from. I know they're for the planners because they're sized for these butterfly effect book. They're sized for these butterfly effect books, but I just can't for the life of me remember how I got them. Like, did they come in an individual pack or not? Either way, if you've got these stencils, or I'm sure all of us have like 55 million flower stencils anyway, I'm going to show you a fun technique to use those and build some abstracty one brush stroke flowers. So, oh yeah, one of my favorite places to add highlights, I don't know if you guys know this, is above the eyelid to kind of make it look like she's got a glossy eyelid. I do that a lot, so check that out in some of my work if you don't believe me. There's a lot of glossy eyelids going on. I just like the highlight there. I used to always highlight under the brow bone, but I don't typically do that much anymore, but I will pretty much always highlight the top of the eyelids, or if I'm watercoloring, I'll leave that part open, or I'll come back in with the Uniball Signo, just anything, really. So I don't have any fancy sponges, so I cut up a cosmetic sponge. I actually didn't even cut it, I just ripped it. I don't clean my stencils either, so sorry to all of you out there with OCD. That's it's not my life, it's not my story. I also didn't plan any of this out. I just went in intuitively. The only thing I'd really planned out is what I wanted to do with the stencils. So I knew that I wanted to use the flower stencil, and I knew that I wanted to use the face stencil, and the rest I just thought, let's go Frida. And I think everyone kind of enjoys a bit of Frida Kahlo inspiration. So yeah, enjoy this one. Here is what I wanted to talk about. I've got gesso, and I've got the light blue and the dark blue from Jane's acrylics. Now what I did, and I've got the brush from the acrylic set too. I love that brush, totally versatile. And it's a flat brush. So what you want to do is grab half the brush and dip it into the gesso, or a white acrylic, or whatever color you want. And then grab the other half of the brush and dip it into the other color. And that way they're kind of going to blend as you lay them down, but not really. I think this looks better if it's just left as you did it once. I wouldn't recommend going over it twice. I did it just there, and I think that's when you start to get into perfectionist area, and that's when you're kind of like looking for it to be really blended. Your eyes are very forgiving. They take things in as a whole. So if you want to try and overblend and do it, by all means go for it, but I just think you're going to give yourself a bit of a headache trying to do it to every single petal, unless you've got 4 hours to spare. Yeah, I would just recommend doing it just with the, you know, the one stroke. I think that's why it's called the one stroke brush method. I saw it on like a Facebook video, I want to say, of some guy doing a dragon, and I thought that would totally work to fill in a stencil, especially with florals. Florals can be really forgiving too, because all petals look different. I'm assuming. I actually know nothing about florals, so I used the stencil on the other side too. I wanted to give it a really dramatic moment on the back of the journal. And yeah, the paint over pens are great too. I love her little Frida necklace. I've been doing that for a few. I always do that choker with the bow, but I thought I remember doing this name kind of necklace, and I thought that would be really fun too. Jane likes to outline a lot of her hand lettering in her journals and stuff, maybe with like a Uniball Signo. I saw it on one of the more recent videos where she makes that beautiful mermaid with the rub-on transfer, and it's really fun if you've got the time to do it. I think it just, a lot of people get to lettering and they get really upset because they think it just doesn't look interesting enough, or maybe it just doesn't look nice enough. But I think a lot of the time people will give up before they take it to that place where they'd be happy with it. I think they're kind of discouraged from the steps in between. So I encourage you to keep going, spend some real time on something. If you're really not happy with your eyes, spend a lot more time on them, and get them to a place that you know that you've tried absolutely everything, and then kind of move on. Because who knows, maybe you're always getting to step 7 and you just don't know what step 10 looks like for you. So there's another bit of advice. My goodness, this video is just me talking and talking and talking. Are you guys sick of it yet? I know I'm sick of the sound of my own voice, but I'll keep going. So yeah, Frida, another thing, if you're using wet mediums and stuff, I love the look of how when I put that marker down, that Crayola marker, when I went back over it with that red watercolor, it just blurred it out. It just kind of washed it away. I think that's a really cool effect too. So try that one if you're interested in that effect. And then I just put some abstract roses, and I love those. I love this whole one. Anyway, I'm going to show you the close-ups for this one, and I'll be back for the next one. Alrighty, so the next one we've got here, same face stencil. We're just going to trace over the top of the eyes, so the eyelashes and the what's it called, the eyelid, and I'm tracing over the pupils too, but I do end up moving those, I feel like, or altering those. I'm tracing on the inside line of that face shape, and I'm doing the cheek, and I'm doing the chin, like the jawline, and then I'm going to flip it upside down and trace over that face shape again, connecting where they already are. So you know what I mean? Like I'm connecting those sides to each other. So essentially, if you flip it on the side, it looks like a big pair of lips, but what I'm creating there is a hairline. And then I go back in and I put a reference for the nostrils. I'm not doing it a super 3/4 face this time. It's kind of a little more push to the front, so that's why I'm using the lines as reference. But what I wanted to show you is that if you're struggling to put hair in, or you don't know where a natural hairline might be, flip that stencil up and it will give you kind of like a nice swooping, like loose middle part kind of a hairstyle. And there I am adding in the eyelid crease and the eyebrows, because that's where I wanted them. And then I'm putting this flower stencil at the top, and I'm drawing over this, and I will end up painting over this anyway, but I'm putting it in because I wanted to show you what I wanted to do with that stencil, and that is to make a bow out of it. And this is actually Alice in Wonderland themed, and I know a lot of us enjoy some Alice in Wonderland themed journaling, so yeah, that's why I wanted to do Alice in Wonderland. And I go back over this and I darken up those features. I actually moved her eyes down because I didn't want them as far up as they were, which I thought was nicer. Looking back back at it. I probably could have moved them down a little bit more. This one I'm keeping very rounded. It's almost cartoon-like. So I'm keeping the cheek very rounded. I'm keeping the hair, in big swooping, curved motions. I'm keeping the neck very rounded as well. So there's a lot of movement to this one. There's a lot of curves involved. And I think that's just a nice style in and of itself. So basic principles that we've been doing already. I'm scrubbing in the watercolor, and then I'm going to add all the other details. I did want to say something though. You'll notice that you'll put the watercolor down and it looks like it's got everything, but if you see like little white pieces of canvas or like some of the gesso like peeking out, like you didn't scrub watercolor there, that's totally normal. I've done it so many times now, and it totally looked like I covered the whole area, but when it dried, there were patches that were just not covered in watercolor. So what I learned to do was to scrub in the watercolor, not just to lay it on top, but to actually get my brush and push it into every part of where I wanted it to sit. And it helps it blend as well if you're adding a bunch of different colors together, but it also just avoids you having to go back over it and fill in some of those sparse areas. So scrubbing the watercolor is a good idea. I've used the two colors from Jane's acrylics, the pink and the purple. The bright pink, I used the bright pink and that light purple to make the Cheshire Cat stripes at the back. So I thought that was fun. I love stripes as a background too. It's a really simple way to add a dynamic feeling to anything that you're doing. And also, like, depending on the color palette, it could be very Victorian. So yeah, get your reference from anywhere. I know, like, it can be Alice in Wonderland, but it doesn't have to be straight up, from the Disney movie. It doesn't have to be from, a picture that you've seen. If you just take your inspiration and put it into the back of your memory and pull out anything that comes to mind for you, let that be your own inspiration. Let your own imagination be your inspiration. If that wasn't such a tongue twister and so long, I would use that as a quote. But anyway, I'm using that Montana acrylic paint marker. Love the Montana acrylic paint markers. Really great selection. There is a ton of colors to choose from. And I was actually recommended those by Jane. I found them through a recommendation that Jane had put on a video somewhere, or somewhere I had seen it, and I really, really loved them. So yeah, I love the Montana acrylic paint markers. I think they're one of my faves. And I've got the really big the really big tip. I don't know if they come in smaller ones, but I've found even as thick as the end of that is, it still works really, really well when you're trying to make thinner lines. Obviously not, eyelash thin, but it's really manageable because it holds its tip really nicely. Like, you can't really bend it out of shape and blunt it. Like, it's pretty good. It holds up, and I've had them for a while now, like maybe over a year. And they're still going strong. And I use them all the time. So really, really good value, the Montana acrylic paint markers. Here I'm using that brush pen again for some just dark blacks. Like I said before, if you're going to spray the sealer over the top of it, you can just go nuts with what you want to use. You don't really have to limit yourself and question, is this going to stay on? Like, how's this going to wear off in 3 months' time? To be honest, like, if you're handling this, like I said before, if you're handling this any type of way that could cause damage anyway, you're probably going to ruin it. But there's also a dust jacket cover for the Butterfly Effect books. So if you're really, really worried about it, just grab one of those and put it over the top. Then you wouldn't even have to spray the sealer on top. You could just keep that clear cover over the top of it and keep it nice and clean. Yeah, so I used that stencil and used a paint marker to go over that and put the details back in. I don't really have much more to say about this. I use the same techniques. This example, I just wanted to show you that the stencil could be flipped upside down to make a really natural hairline for a middle part. So I know it's super specific, but if that's something you're looking for, if you're always kind of like, where do I put the hair? How do I connect it to the ear? Just flip the stencil upside down. It's done. Anyway, so I'm going to start playing some music, I guess, and you can watch me finish this one, and I'll be back to explain the next one.